Chakra UI's Color Picker is definitely one of my favorite components, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use it. We're going to be using the Color Picker to white label this login screen. So let's take a quick tour on how it works. So we have the Color Picker right here. So when we scrub through it, we see that the background color of our login screen changes, and we can even go ahead to create a couple of swatches beneath our Color Picker right here. And you see that this is a red color, the background changes. And that's not all. We can also change the text color to match whatever brand or colors that we want in our company. So this is very useful because if you're an enterprise team and you're looking to build an application that other companies can white label to fit their brand colors, then the color picker component comes in handy. So let's jump into our tutorial to learn how to use the color picker to create amazing interfaces like this. This is a Vite project and we already have Chakra UI installed in it. So the first thing to do is install our color picker snippet. So open up the terminal and run the command for snippet installation. This is it right here, and just type in enter. So this installs the color picker snippet into our application, and right now we are now ready to start building our custom color picker. So we go in to create a new file called custom color picker.tsx. And in this file, this is where we're going to create a color picker component. Let's go into Chakra UI to see the structure of the color picker. So this is the structure of the color picker. It has, all of these subcomponents are inside a color picker root component. We have the label, the control that has the input and the trigger. And then we have a color picker content that has the area, the eyedropper, and the sliders. This is the code structure for a basic color picker component. So now we can build this out. Export function, custom color picker, and it returns a color picker root. So knowing that we installed our snippets, we're just going to import from this snippets directory. So I'm going to enter this. And now within the color picker root, we have the color picker label, which is just the label that gives context to the color picker. So this is going to be called color. We import it also from snippets. And then we have the color picker control. Within the color picker control, we have two components. We have the color picker input and then the color picker trigger. So that's that for the color picker control. Now let's go over to add the color picker content and the components within this content. So import color picker content. And within the color picker content, we have the color picker area. And we also have the color picker eyedropper and the color picker sliders. Now these are inside an H tag. So we add in H tag from Chakra UI. And we add the color picker eyedropper. There's absolutely no need for you to have this in your head, right? I'm just typing it down so that you can follow along and see how the anatomy of the color picker component in Chakra UI is structured. So we add the color picker eyedropper. And finally, the color picker sliders. So yeah, this is a custom color picker, and now we can add it in our login screen so we see how it renders. So I'm just going to put the custom color picker here. I'm going to render it here so it shows up in our application. check it out, and now we see that our color picker has indeed been added to our login screen. But when we scrub through the colors, one thing you can instantly notice is that while the colors are changing, right, nothing is being affected in terms of the background color or the text color. So this tells us that we need to store all these values in a slice of state. So let's go back to our code and store the values of the color in state. So to do this, we're going to be using new state. And at the top of our code here, we're going to add in, the state. We're just going to call this color, and then the set color function. This will be stored using useState. So we import useState from React. There's a function in Chakra UI that is called pass color. So we import it. It's useful for actually passing the colors of all the hex codes that we're going to be using. So we import pass color, and we're just going to set the color right now to white. That's it. Now on the color picker route, this color picker route takes a couple of props. The first prop is the default value prop. So on the default value, we're going to store this value as color. We're going to pass color as a default value of this color picker. And now it also takes an on value change prop. It allows us to change or set the color when we scrub through the color picker. So I'm just going to pass in a function, and then we set the color to e.value. So when we go back to our UI here and we scrub through the colors, we see that nothing changes still, even though we've stored these colors in state. This tells us that we need to move the color states to our login component, because this login component here needs to know the color that we apply. Right now, it's just embedded in the custom color picker. So let's go back to our code to move the states to our login component. I'm going to copy or cut this out and go into login. And on top of our login components here, I'm going to paste this. Of course, we import useState from React. And we also import pass color function from Chakra UI. We're also going to grab these props right here. We're going to be passing it from our login screen. So scroll all the way to the custom color picker and paste the props here. Now we need to define the props in our custom color picker. So to define these props, let's create an interface for our props. We're going to call this custom color picker props. So one thing to know here is Chakra UI exposes a color picker root props. So knowing that default value and on value change were gotten from the root, we can extend our interface and define the color picker with props here. Now, the only prop we need to define here is a label prop, which you'll see why we need it shortly. So we define the label prop here, and it's going to be a string. And now we can destructure and pass in the props into our custom color picker. So I define my props here, and I point it to custom color picker props. And now I destructure these props. So I take out label from our props, and I spread the rest of these props. And now I also spread the rest of the props on the root right here, like so, and add in the label prop here. So let's recap all we've done. All we did was to move the states in our custom color picker over to the login screen, right? We moved it here. This is it here. And then we define the props so that we can pass this state. And now we can pass in our label prop and define it as color. Now we are passing all the props that are required into the custom color picker. But one last bit we need to do is to update the background color. So knowing that we already have all these values stored in state, we go to the point where we need to change the background color, which is right here on this box. So we're going to be passing the color value to the background. This hooks up, what is being scrubbed and ensures that the background actually reflects the color that the color picker picks for us. So we get this color from the state here, and it's throwing an error because right now it's expecting a string of color, but this color is not a string. So we use the dot to string method, and now we can define the value as hexa, which is hex alpha. So going back to our UI, we check this out and we see that indeed when we scroll through the colors, the background color actually changes, right? This is what we want. But we notice that when we get to a really dark color, like this color right here, the text is no longer visible. We could also do similarly to ensure that while we change the background color, we can also change the text color. So we go back to our code and we just repeat the same steps that we did earlier. So I'm going to create another slice of state right here, and I'm going to call this text color. This will be set text color, and the default will be black. Now, what we can do is go back to where we have this custom color picker and really just create a new custom color picker, and this one will be for the text color. So we give the default value the text color. This will be set text color, and my label, I'm just going to change this to text color. So we have the second custom color picker that changes the text color. So we go over to where we need to change the text color, and in this case this is the container right here. So instead of having it as a static semantic token, this is actually going to be coming from this state here. So we pass in text color. Knowing that it needs to be converted to a string, we add the toString method and define it as hexa. Now let's see what we have. So we have a background color that we can change, and now we also have the text color that we can change, and this is just absolutely amazing. I love to play with this because I just love to scrub through the different colors and you can see how it changes. Now, another scenario is, what if instead of giving your users, an open-ended color picker for them to pick from, what if you actually just create a set of swatches that they can easily just pick from, right? That would make sense to them. So for us to create a swatch in Chakra UI, let me show you what I have here. So I've already gone ahead to create this custom color picker swatch, which is really very similar to what we already created in the custom color picker. But the only thing is that it contains the color picker swatch group, which allows us to map over an array of swatches and render them. So this is how to use swatches with your color picker. So let's go back to our login screen and add a swatches array to the background color. So in fact, I'm going to change this label to background color so that we're very explicit. And now we make this custom color picker swatch. We import it like so. It's expecting a swatches array, so we pass in swatches right here. It's an array of, we can give this red, green, blue. Of course, it can also take hex colors, right? And yellow. So when we go back to our UI and we scrub through, we see that it changes like we want, and we can also select colors from these defined swatches down here. So we see this is red, green, blue, yellow, and this is really just amazing. This is exactly what we want. There's a whole lot more that you can do with the color picker, so go ahead to check out our documentation for different use cases and scenarios of how to use the color picker component.